Aloha. Welcome to the 2023 Maui Wildfires Roadmap to Recovery Orientation. We are so grateful that you were able to find your way to log on today. We certainly hope that you have already had heard about our nonprofit organization, maybe met some of the representatives of our organization who have been on the island or on the island, and or found us on the internet or through some of our many partners. We're so very sorry for the losses that brought you here today, but we are so proud to be able to bring you our 32 years of experience as a charity that goes into disaster impacted areas and provides honest, simplified, technical, financial, insurance, emotional support, all for your benefit, not for anything. We don't sell anything. We're here to give you genuine help. You can download today's slide deck by going to our website and navigating to events, clicking on today's event. And then you see on the right there's a link to the slide deck, and you can download it and follow along, or use the information later for reference. So that's me, not a great picture, but what can you do? I am one of the two founders of the organization. And so I've been shaping and leading the Roadmap to Recovery, Roadmap to Preparedness, and our advocacy program since 1995. I've been a professional insurance consumer advocate since the 80s. I'm one of the authors of the Little Yellow Book that you may have seen. And I am an attorney. I had a short period of time in my career representing clients in lawsuits against insurance companies, but that was a while ago. I've been full-time running the organization now for many years. And part of my job is to keep my finger on the pulse of things that are happening in the insurance world. And then particularly after disasters, lead a team that really knows what they're talking about. And are dedicated consumer advocates, people lovers, as it were. Just a little bit more about UP. We're a nonprofit. We've been doing this work since the 1991 wildfires that hit Oakland and Berkeley. The program that we're bringing you today is our Roadmap to Recovery program, and that includes post-disaster guidance and services focused on financial, insurance, real estate, construction decision-making, and emotional recovery. We're funded by donations and grants, volunteer labor. You can't hire us. Our services are free, but they're limited. We cannot do one-on-one claim help or one-on-one legal help, but we have a lot of professional volunteers that give pieces of their time, and we have a tremendous amount of free information that we have put together over many years on our website that is available to you to help you be your own best advocate. Our partners include departments of insurance, or an organization called VOAD, which is Voluntary Organizations Assisting in Disaster. We are part of Hawaii VOAD. Insurance, legal, construction, personal finance professionals, including are the partners that you have been meeting as you've gone to the different centers. So this is the library that we set up for your fire, and we've got all kinds of information in there, and we are doing our best to keep it up to date on a daily basis. You can see on the right there's a place for you to sign up to get updates from us and find out when we're offering our next event. This is our Little Yellow Book that you may have seen. And if you would like to get a copy of it, our representative on the island, who you're going to meet in a minute, if you haven't met her already, has a supply of them here at the Lahaina Civic Center. So you can visit with us in person there this week, and you can also access information from other agencies and help resources. As I mentioned, our program is called the Roadmap to Recovery. It includes webinars like this one, workshops, our Survivor to Survivor series, which we'll tell you about, which is basically a hangout online in a safe space with other people who have either walked the path you're on now or in the past, or are walking on it right now. We offer decision-making help. We talk about mortgages and loans, taxes, legal matters, insurance problem solving. And then we host pro bono professional health clinics. And we are looking at doing one in November. So when you sign up, you'll get information about that. So what you find on our website is step-by-step guidance, sample letters to help you be a good communicator with your insurance company or other people that you're working with during the recovery process. And then we have a professional help directory of some of the types of professionals that you might need that support our organization and that we have done our best to vet. And then you can read some of our tips from our trained disaster survivor volunteers who've walked the walk, been there, done that, and have some nuggets of wisdom to share with you that don't come with any strings attached. That's sort of the beauty of what we offer, is that we're not here to get you to hire us, and our information is free. So very, very core message that we want to remind you of in this difficult time, that wildfire recovery is a process, and you really have to get through it one day at a time. And the best person to really bring that home for you is my very, very valued colleague and team member, Annie Barber. So Annie is with us. I want to you can see a little bit about her. She lost her own home in 2017. And as soon as your fires hit, Annie said, I'm ready to go over there. And there she is. So Annie, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I think most of you I have met at the DRC in one location or another, but to reintroduce myself, I'm a 2017 Cubs fire survivor. We lost 1,440 homes just in my subdivision, almost 6,000 in the entire fire. We formed a group called Coffee Strong, which was simply led, pushed forward by what the community said they needed, and we tried to figure out how to accommodate that, get the answers, and we moved on from there. Moving forward, I had acquired a lot of information about the rebuild process, what our community went through. Amy kindly asked me to do a volunteer stint at our fire a couple of years later for the glass fire, table for them. We paired up with Coffee Strong and we tabled that event. And moving forward, she asked me if I would like to work in this nonprofit that had so much value in our community, in our recovery. They came in like gangbusters and put on events, and all we had to do sometimes was find a location. Sometimes we just had to share it within our community and let people know that that resource was there. I value the fact that I can come in here and help you navigate your recovery in any way that I can. So you're going to see my rebuild. I'm hoping this gives you some hope. That is the point of these pictures. Everybody starts off in that same place of the ash, looking like bombs went off. This is after the FEMA debris removal. And this is where they're starting to get ready for my foundation. this is my foundation. I had no idea when it was going in. We took a bike ride. You're naturally drawn back to your home area. We took a bike ride. We came around the corner, and lo and behold, there was the cement truck and all the workers laying my foundation. There's framing, one step at a time. I will share with you that my home came back quicker than a lot of others, and it's a very natural thing for when people would come around the corner and see my progression, that they would feel hope and then they would feel some anxiety. Just know that that is really common, and don't let that drive your decision-making process. This is when they're starting the interior. It's a point of relief for most of us because it means that the weather won't impact our rebuild at this point because everything is secured. And this is my beautiful house. I loved my old house. It was a 1970s tract home. And I will always miss the memories in that house, the relationships in that house, some of the things that I had acquired in that house, even though that list has definitely gone down because my priorities have changed since the fire. And but in the big picture, this home is not the same house that I had originally. What it is, it's in the same location. I have the exact same neighbors who we have formed an incredible bond with. And the value of that in the community is one of the silver linings that I walked away from this process with.
Thank you, Annie. And Annie will be back as we go. So just a few of the words of wisdom that we have found really ring true over the years, because the process can just be so overwhelming. And typically, people who've gone through what you've gone through aren't sleeping particularly well, aren't thinking particularly clearly. So understanding, that pacing yourself is so important. There's so many people that have sort of swarmed to the island, and a lot of them are well-intentioned, a lot of them want to sell you things, a lot of them are business people, and you can have this feeling of, oh my God, I have to make these decisions quickly. You feel pressure, but for those of us who've been part of the process from the outside for many years, we've observed how important it is to remind you that it really does take time, and it's okay to put off decisions. And even if people tell you, pressure you, that you make better decisions when you've given yourself enough time to really think through what's involved. And Annie mentioned it can cause anxiety when you think that a neighbor is making more progress than you or moving faster than you. And, I've certainly met many people over the years who said, I'm going to be the first one rebuilt. And, sometimes you pay a price for that. You sometimes it works out, but I think for most people, they just need to have some time to get their wits about them and really not make bad decisions. And so being kind to yourself is something we also like to remind people of. Keeping a diary, super important, a journal. Any old notebook will do, just to help you not have to try to keep things in your brain when you aren't at your full strength, right? So just writing down who you talk to when, so that you have a little history of who said what and what kind of decisions are awaiting you, or decisions you've made. It's also really helpful. We talk about speaking up to be a good communicator with your insurance company and let them know that you're the squeaky wheel who's going to get paid, that you're going to understand your rights, you're going to get educated, you are attached to us, you are getting information from us, and that includes writing clear communications to them, emails that are short and sweet and to the point, so they will be read by busy people, where you say, this is what we're waiting for, this is our understanding of where things stand, and if an adjuster comes and tells you something that doesn't sound right, like we don't owe for this or we don't pay for that, you can get in the habit of saying, can you please show me where it says that in my policy? Because very often it doesn't say that, and the adjuster may be just sort of freestyling it. So remember what insurance is. It's a vehicle to get you back where you were before your loss, but it won't drive itself. So by that we mean it's your assets, it's your home, it's your stuff. You really can't just blindly sit back, as insurance ads might let you think that, with the magic wand and the house film going backwards, that we got, you're in good hands, we're going to take care of you. Those are ads, right? You really do need to be proactive. That doesn't mean you come in with your dukes up, ready, loaded for bear. But it's just to be realistic about the dynamic between an insurance company and you when you're looking to extract a large sum of money from them, and they're a business. So being proactive about valuing your assets and understanding what you're entitled to, very, very important. So by now you should already have a complete and current copy of your home insurance policy or policies if you have multiple ones. The Hawaii Department of Insurance, which we'll give you their contact information, will help you if your insurer hasn't given you the policy, or you don't have it in your anywhere online or in the cloud or where you can find it. These are the typical categories of coverage. You probably already know about this. Not every insurer uses the ABCD labels for the buckets, but most policies are organized into these basic categories. We often refer to them as buckets because we think of them as your maximum limit is that's the full bucket, right? And you want to get everything that's in that bucket in the event of a total loss, right? Another little word of wisdom that we want to recommend is, it's what I was saying about don't come in loaded for bear, but give your insurance company a chance to do the right thing, but don't be a pushover, right? Because ads are ads, right? The reality is that they're a business. They want to minimize the amount they pay. You want to maximize. So you don't have the same objective with your insurer. And the adjuster may be friendly, but they're not your friend. They're a trained negotiator, right? You're not on a level playing field when you're dealing with a large or total loss and an insurance company. And so that's why we're here. That's really the bottom line. Should you expect a fight with your insurer? No. Some claims go smoothly, and we certainly hope yours does. We early on put out a public message to insurers that given the horror of these fires and the loss of life, that they should be paying out maximum limits as quickly as possible, and they should waive as many of their paperwork rules as possible. But they are businesses, so disputes can arise, but being informed and empowered is the key to getting a fair settlement. A reality check, an insurance claim on a total loss from a wildfire can be a full-time job, and can be hard to manage on your own. So for some people, they find it just necessary to hire help. And there's no shame in that. The trick is hiring the right help, hiring quality help. And we know from the get-go that there have been a lot of business people, public adjusters, construction consultants, entrepreneurs, lawyers from that have come from the mainland onto your beautiful island to help or to do business, to earn money. But we always have a preference for hiring local. So important to check references in this situation, because particularly public adjusters that come from out of the area. Some of them are amazing salespeople. They're really, really good. And words are words, but actions are what matters. So do not hire anybody without checking their references, and ideally talking to a client who they've helped. And that's really important. Now, a public adjuster, a good one, will get you more than you would have gotten on your own, and will more than cover their fee. But a bad one will either do nothing, which is a problem, because then they'll hold up your progress, and that's not good. And or they can take money out, that you need, right? We know that in most situations, 2/3 of wildfire survivor, people who lose everything, are severely underinsured. And in your situation, given that you're an island and things are more expensive there anyway, we are very concerned that the underinsurance problem is going to be even worse. So again, any professional that you hire, they're going to charge you money, right? If they tell you that they're going to give you a free sample, okay, maybe they'll read your policy for you for free, fine, good. But in most situations, ain't no free, right? So you really got to be have your wits about you before you hire anybody, especially because their fees are negotiable. And so, public adjuster fees can range anywhere from as little as 4% to as high as 20%. But the normal range is somewhere around 7%. But again, we're hearing all kinds of stories. So just have your eyes and ears open, in addition to your hearts, which I know many of you in that beautiful place are particularly this is a tough one. So that's why we're there, and we're going to stay with you as much as we can. Also, we are well aware that there are a lot of attorneys that have come from off the island saying, hire us. We're going to sue the electric company, and that's definitely something to learn about. It can be a remedy if you're underinsured, a recovery from an at-fault party, somebody who was responsible for setting the fire. But of course, in this situation, it'll be a while before we know the facts of how the fire started and all that. So again, there's no rush to hire a lawyer. You have plenty of time. So please just again, take your time. So getting on the road to recovery includes understanding your policy. We know that there's a lot of folks that are on the island that have been offering free reviews, and we will be hosting a clinic where our volunteers will be reviewing policies, but that won't be until November. So that for a lot of you will be a second opinion on what's available to you. But you can do a lot on your own with understanding your policy, right? This is kind of the typical declarations page. That's like the first and second pages of your policy. They don't all look like this, but they should lay out for you those buckets, right? How much for your home? How much for your garages, outbuildings, retaining walls, fences, walkways, pool, what have you? Sheds, barns. How much for your stuff, your personal property? How much for your loss of use? Those are the main ones. And then, of course, there's all these other details, such as, do you have extended coverage? Do you have replacement as opposed to depreciated? Do you have some of these special extra things? ALE, this is a big one. So, and I try not to use acronyms, lingo, words people wouldn't understand. ALE stands for additional living expense. It means the same thing as loss of use. It means the same thing as temporary living expenses. Some insurers use some of those definitions differently, right? But what is this category? What is this bucket? This is the bucket that provides funds for your expenses that you have because you've lost the use of your home, right? So rent for comparable housing and furniture, extra mileage and gas to drive places, to drive your kids to school or drive to work or get your groceries, laundry costs if your rental doesn't have a washer dryer. If you go to our website and you uphelp.org/ALE, you'll find a much longer list of all the kind of items that you might be able to claim. Couple things to remember: your mortgage payments are not covered because that was an expense you already had. That has nothing to do with the fire, right? You can request cash advances and flexibility. Most of you have either 12 months or 24 months. Some of you have a dollar limit on the ALE benefits, loss of use benefits. Some of you do not. You see here, I have a reference to a memo that the Hawaii Insurance Commissioner has put out to help you. He has asked the insurance companies, knowing that it's unlikely, very unlikely, that many or most or all of you will be able to move back into a rebuilt home a year from the fire. He has already issued a public ask of insurance companies to extend those deadlines. That doesn't have legal binding authority on the insurers, but it is a great start. Okay. And we have seen some insurers extend ALE after past wildfires. Annie, do you want to talk about some of the creative things that people can do with their ALE money?
Yeah, and some of this is may help you and may not, quite frankly. These are some of the tools that people have used in other communities where they've taken their ALE, knowing that they either won't be able to find housing by their property for the rebuild, or they don't have the resources to extend for the amount of time that it's going to take to rebuild. So people have done, your basic incurred month-to-month fair rental value. I was able to utilize that because I moved in with my boyfriend. So that was a bucket of money. They said you can either have us find you a place to live and pay your rent, or you can find a place, we will approve it and pay it, or we can give you fair rental value. I chose the fair rental value. Fifth wheel or tiny home, manufactured home, or an RV are some of the tools people have used. It may be more difficult in your area with the permitting process. So before you go that way, please make sure that you understand what the limitations will be. I know they're trying to move the needle on some of this. And the worst that's going to happen is you're going to make an ask and they're going to say no. And you can make that ask as many times as you want. Doesn't mean you have to be obnoxious. It just means, why not? And if you're staying with friends and relatives, ask for that fair rental value. There's not a lot of housing over here. And so people have had to make their homes in with other people, and that's okay. But that bucket of money is available to you, and you need to acquire as much of it as you possibly can.
Thank you, Annie. Okay. Here's the memo that the commissioner put out, asking insurers to voluntarily give people at least 3 years, 36 months. Again, unclear whether any insurers will do it, but he did the right thing. Commissioner Ito did the right thing by making this ask. And I know right after your fire, I talked to the Colorado and the California insurance commissioners who are partners of ours, and they both assured me that they had communicated to your commissioner some of the things that they did and that we've done in California and in Colorado to really get insurers to be more flexible with their claim handling. So debris removal, if possible, we really recommend either you do it, or if you can't have somebody else go to your lot and take pictures of the debris before it gets removed. It just can be helpful down the road. You do need to understand your max available benefits. And then you do need to learn your options, whether you want to go it alone, or with neighbors, or participate in a publicly coordinated debris removal program. The coordinated debris removal program is a work in progress right now, but many communities that have had wildfires have found that it was just to everyone's advantage to have a coordinated program. You got some cost savings, you have more safety, efficiency, speed. But the program, if you have a government entity overseeing it, vetting the vendor, the contractors that do the work, it's never perfect. You have to sign a right of entry form that gives the county or the state or FEMA the ability to go onto your property. That can be scary for people, but it's a pretty straightforward deal. It's just that you really need to just need to know what's going to happen if the cost of the debris removal is more than the amount of insurance that you have. Because typically what will happen is you sign the right of entry and you actually agree to assign your insurance monies for that bucket for debris removal over to whoever's doing the removal, so they know they've got some money to pay for it. Annie, do you want to explain that last point?
I want to explain a couple points here. So we have been hearing that President Biden has approved a no-fee debris removal with some strings attached, timeframes and such, and that people are thinking that they can utilize that bucket of money, which is a percentage for debris removal, usually 5 or 10% on your policy, and that you can use that in other buckets of money. You can use that for your rebuild. We have not vetted that yet to make sure that that's actually true. And so just be aware of that. I would like to share with you that in my program, I went with FEMA. I had $36,000 in my insurance for cleanup. My cleanup was $108,000, and I was only responsible for the $36,000 that was in my policy. It seems that yours is written the same way. From everything that I have heard, we're going to reevaluate that. We have a gentleman on site at the DRC who can talk you through the process, Paul Lowenthal, who came from Santa Rosa and is doing this work to expedite it for you and can explain things. He knows everything that's in that.
And so this slide here is a place to go on the internet there, mauirecovers.org, and you can get information about the consolidated program. I assume it's up to date, but like Annie said, this is still, I think the details are being worked out. And this is another one of those, just try to get information before you make a decision.
Yeah, and I'll add to that because I really didn't answer the question that Amy had. For me, the debris removal was handled through our county, which is how it's been in all of the fires that I've worked in. And so they take care of receiving the funds, billing, and they're the go-between between FEMA and the homeowner. That money was not billed to us for 2 years. Some insurance companies will send the money directly to the county, and some will send it to you. If they send it to you, please put it into a savings account and know that that could be 2 years before you get that bill. You definitely don't want to spend it on your rebuild and then come up short on that.
Right, right. Okay. So your policy may have extended coverages, which is why it's good to have somebody help you read it, because there's math involved and not all of us are great at math. But you also may have an inflation protection, but it's usually pretty small, 2-3%. But it's still worth, you want to squeeze every penny out. The flow of insurance funds is one of those confusing aspects of the process that makes people go, why do they do it this way? But they've done it this way forever, and I don't see much sign of it changing, other than some of the legislative reforms we've gotten through in some of the other states. Typically, the insurer will give some cash advances, which is great, but then they will pay. They will value your losses, your contents, your dwelling, your other structures, and then they will depreciate it, which I'll explain in a minute. They will only pay you a portion. That's they call it a holdback. They will hold back a portion, and then once you establish that you've spent all the money that they've given you, and you need more to replace, and you have more available, then they will pay you that additional money. We have certainly seen people negotiate cash out settlements. It happens fairly often, but not always. And we don't like to raise people's hopes about it, because, but again, it's like what we were saying with ALE, there's never harm in asking, and we have sample letters asking for a cash out settlement. There's never any harm in it, especially if your family suffered the loss, a loss of life, or the loss of a pet, of a family member, and or if you have extenuating circumstances, somebody is ill in your house, or it's been a month, and nobody from the insurance company has shown their face, right? Those are sort of points you can make to say why they should cut you a big fat check and let you go, and not make you go through these hoops, right? But there are these two valuations. There is the replacement value, so what you'd have to pay in the here and now to replace the item that was destroyed, and then the actual cash value, which we often talk about as the Craigslist price, the used price. What a willing buyer would have paid you, a willing seller, the day before the loss, right? And those are the two measures, right? So I was explaining about how they dole the money out, right? You ideally, you reach an agreement with your insurance company on the replacement cost value of what you lost. If you have replacement value coverage, and not everybody does, some people have only depreciated actual cash value coverage, but if you do have that replacement cost coverage, and then they're going to hold back, right? As I said, they're going to hold back an amount, apply depreciation, right, for wear and tear, age, and then they're going to hold that money back until you replace. And then that's generally how the process works, in most situations, not all. So what are some of the common hotspots that you'll see with insurance claims after a total loss? Delays, they'll send one adjuster, or maybe these days, sometimes insurers are trying to just adjust without a human being showing up, but traditionally there should be a human being that shows up, but then they will often go back home, and then another person will come. So that can cause delays, or there can just be delays in general from the insurance company adjusters, not answering your emails, not answering your calls. Very common, very frustrating. There can be misinformation on what they owe you. They can lowball your valuations and say, oh, this could be replaced for $300,000 when a builder says this is a $600,000 rebuild, that kind of thing, lowballing. They can excessively depreciate your furniture, your stuff. You may be underinsured, meaning you don't have enough in those buckets to put back what you had, right? Another one is one of these sort of hoops that insurers have designed that they make you jump through, is requiring you to give them a very detailed, itemized inventory of all of your stuff. That is one of the most painful hotspots for a lot of people, because the heart is trying to heal and try to put this thing behind you the way that when we've had a tragedy befall us, the way that human beings move forward is often by putting it behind them and trying to put it out of your mind. And so having to do this inventory is the opposite of what your body and brain and heart want you to do, right? It makes you have to keep remembering these things that you lost and that you loved, and it's awful. So we've been working very hard, our organization, for many years to try to get insurers to relax the itemization requirement. And so these days, your insurer may make you an offer. They may say, we'll pay you 80% or 60% or 50% of your contents. And we'll be offering workshops to help you with the inventory. Like we say to people, if you want a whole firm for every dollar that's available to you, we're here to help you do that. And there are professionals that will help you do that. Public adjusters, that's a big part of what they will do for you. Take that burden off of you. But hey, if your insurer makes you an offer that you feel like you can live with, our feeling, like they'll cash you out so you don't have to do the inventory. Our feeling is just understand that you don't have to do that. I just disappeared on you here as like a ghost. Sorry about that. I'm so sorry. The light is weird here. You don't have to take what they're offering you, right? You do not have to. Sorry about that. Give me a minute here. There I am. It's just getting worse and worse here. Okay. But again, this is just like what I talked about in the beginning. Take your time so that you make the right decision for your household, right? Other hotspots, zoning, permitting issues, setback requirements, building codes. Very early in your process right now to really know what your options are going to be, right? Scams, hard sell solicitations, fees that eat up precious insurance benefits. And then the challenges you may have if you, which my colleague and great friend Val Brown is going to talk to you about in a minute. What happens if you register with FEMA, which you should, but then they deny your request for individual assistance because you have insurance. That is a very common hotspot. So I'm so pleased to turn the mic over here to Val Brown, my right and left hand, for 15 years of experience in disaster recovery. She's my deputy. She is an officer and board member of something called the Disaster Leadership Team. She's the president of the VOAD in her community. You really don't find more experienced and dedicated disaster recovery professionals than Val. So Val, thanks so much for walking us through sources of non-insurance money. And we did get a question from somebody who doesn't have insurance. So this answer here is for you.
Got it. Thank you. And for everyone, whether you have insurance or not, that FEMA individual assistance that's available at the DRC, we encourage you to register, because if you don't have insurance, that is going to be the primary gateway to receiving funds. So if you don't have insurance, you'll be eligible for funds through them. They're going to pitch you over, whether you're eligible for them or not, they're going to pitch you over to SBA. And if you qualify for an SBA loan, you may or may not be in a position financially to take that loan. And if you're not able to, or SBA denies you, they're going to pitch you back to FEMA again for another group of funds that FEMA has called Other Needs Assistance. There's also the FEMA Housing Assistance Program available to you. So if you have renters assistance, you might have very limited additional living expense funding in your policies. So that would be a resource to you until you're able to find yourself a long-term housing situation. But going back to what Amy said, when you have insurance and you register for FEMA, they're going to deny you. And it's because their Congress does not allow them to duplicate benefits. So what that means for you is when you find your insurance is not covering something, you would appeal the FEMA denial. You would provide them your copy of your letter from your insurance company saying, we're not going to pay for whatever this thing is. And then that'll start the process. And there will be social service agencies to help you with that. Jumping over to the SBA piece, fortunately, that the amount that you're able to borrow with that very low interest loan, I think it's 2.9% interest, is up to $500,000 to help you with the rebuilding of your home. There's another, I believe, 100,000 for contents, and there's also some mitigation dollars that you can take advantage of as well. Other resources available: United Way is providing funds to people in need, Red Cross. There's resources providing cell phones and just different resources. So going to those community resource centers to see what's available. If you haven't been, encourage you to go register for FEMA and take advantage of those opportunities there. Those people want to help you. Please take advantage of that. You know, when you look at where your insurance is, and unfortunately you find yourself underinsured, just be aware, you know, you can look at bank loans, you know, that SBA resource again. And then the other thing is, if there's a lawsuit with a responsible party, there could potentially in the long term be a verdict that results in a settlement. But be aware, Annie had one with her fire. They are just now receiving those proceeds. So 5-6 years down the road, those funds become available. They're not going to be a quick fix. So taking advantage of these immediate resources can be very helpful to you.
Val, we got a question. Is it true FEMA only covers 41,000 total?
Yes. So FEMA is, it's not meant to make you whole. There is no government program to make you whole. You know, that's where Congress has chartered that to, it's providing some basic assistance. So there's 41,000 available for a max grant in that original program. And then if you're pitched over to that other needs assistance piece, that's another potentially 41,000, but they're kind of complementary. And so when you go talk to FEMA, you know, be aware that, you know, you're going to have to prove that you have that need. Okay. So it's not easy to get a max award. You have to, you know, hit certain criteria. There's a little financial means testing there. So just, you know, be aware that walking in the door for FEMA doesn't mean you're going to get $41,000 off the bat.
Yeah, I think the average grant is still like 6,000.
Yeah, it's 5,000 or 6,000. And just to be frank, the number, it usually takes 4 to 5 appeals for folks with insurance to be able to move through. And that's working with the assumption that you have something that's not going to be covered, like septic, other things. And as far as you have to be a legal resident. I believe a green card would work, but if your family does not have that status, but you have a child who is a U.S. citizen, you can apply on behalf of that child. But again, definitely talk to, you know, that's what those folks there at the FEMA registration table are for, is to ask all of these questions.
So Val, you know, we've been hearing a lot of concern that people have about if I register with FEMA, that, you know, they're going to try to take my land. Is there any truth to that?
No. So so two things that pop up here. Normally there's the concern that FEMA is going to take possession of your property, and no, they can't take your land. But the other thing that pops up is we know people tend to, especially in high cost of living areas, have atypical housing situations. And so sometimes you'll have landlords who don't want to provide that you had a rental agreement so that you can prove to FEMA that you are a renter and you need financial assistance. And FEMA does not talk to the IRS and go report people for not reporting income. They're totally separate departments. They don't talk. They're not allowed to talk. I mean, the privacy within FEMA is so strict that they can't necessarily talk amongst themselves, you know, without having privacy issues resolved and attorneys involved. So just be aware that, you know, they're not looking at that piece for you. They're not going to take your land. They're not going to report you to people. Okay.
All right. So this slide walks you through the 3 ways to apply. Anything you want to add on this, Val?
Yeah, just a reminder that you can walk in there now, and I would take advantage of the fact that you can walk in, ask your questions, have that one-on-one time with someone, because calling on the phone, you're going to get a different person when you call. And, you know, actually just one thing to point out about FEMA phone calls, it really concerns people. When FEMA wants to call and do a damage assessment on your property, they're going to call you. And for a lot of people, that feels like a scam. Someone saying, you know, I'm from FEMA and I want to schedule a time, and they ask you to verify some personal information. And so if you get a phone call like that, you are within bounds to hang up, call that FEMA 800 number and say, someone called me representing they were from FEMA. And because they have to log their work, they can tell you, yes, so-and-so did call you. And I will put a note for them to call you back now that you validated it. Because that's a real concern with frauds and scams after disaster that FEMA is proactively in handling.
Okay. You walk us through this slide.
Yeah, so with the fires in Maui, you're going to be eligible for that SBA disaster assistance. And so these are your deadlines, just to be aware. So usually SBA is applying, people view it as something that's for small businesses, but because of disasters, homeowners are also eligible, right? And so, you know, it's loans to businesses, nonprofits, homeowners, renters. You just need to go in, do your application. Physical damage deadline is October 10th. Economic damage, obviously, you've got a lot more time on that because it takes businesses a lot more time to figure out what their losses would be. And again, just be aware that when you apply for SBA, what you'll get with both FEMA and SBA is you'll get what looks like a denial, but if you read the letter, it's basically, it's denied because we need more information. And so when you get the letter, don't pitch the letter, take the time to read through, call them and ask them to explain what it is precisely they need, and then make sure you get that to them. And if you find that you've missed a letter because your address has moved and you're staying with friends and your mail, you know, things just got lost in the shuffle and you find later you got a letter back, call them immediately and let them know that your mail was misdirected and get yourself back on track.
Yeah, thank you. And then October 10th is right around the corner. There's no guarantee that deadline is going to get extended. You know, we have always told people over the years, based on what a lot of our survivor volunteers have told us, is apply for that SBA loan just to get your oar in the water. That doesn't mean you have to take out the loan, but get the process going. Val, is that still solid advice?
Yes, it always behooves you to apply for everything you might be eligible, because you don't know what you're going to need until you get further along in this process.
And then a lot of our partner agencies, there's the Maui County Bar Association, there's legal aid, that will help with FEMA appeals. And also, are they also doing SBA appeal help? Annie, do you know?
Not heard whether they are or not, but I would assume that as long as they are on site, that they would be willing to help people navigate that.
Yeah. Okay. And this is, these are all the centers where you can go to get what, Val, is this where people can get applications, or?
So these are the different resources and the community centers available to you. So for FEMA, obviously, you're looking at, that it'll tell you which ones are there. The FEMA staff are at, but for the others, you're going to access a lot of those other resources. So this is the roadmap as it stands up today of what centers are available and what they're offering.
Okay. I do not know the answer to this question. I suspect the answer is no. Do you know if someone can use SBA loan to pay down credit card debt?
Truly, that is a question for SBA, but I would think that just like with FEMA, when they give you funding for a certain thing, like for FEMA, if they give you money for housing assistance, you have to use it for housing assistance. If they give it to you for repairs on your home, you have to use it for that. The same for, contents coverage. You're not allowed to mix everything up. Right.
So thank you, Val. We're going to go through fairly quickly your rights, your legal rights on Hawaii, in Hawaii, as when related to insurance, right? So one main reason that we made sure that this slide deck was uploaded and available to you is that we're not going to go into detail on all the laws and regulations. But what I want you to know is the most important thing is that you are protected by laws and regulations. There's lots of them that require insurance companies to behave properly, to treat you fairly, to investigate and pay your claim in full, fairly, timely. But as with everything else in life, those laws don't always get complied with. Adjusters sometimes don't know all the local laws. And so sometimes they get broken. But it's important to know what your rights are. It's also important to know that you have a government agency, you love it and don't love it. It's free, and they're there for you to help you. So the Hawaii Department of Commerce, the Consumer Affairs Insurance Division has had a very strong presence in a lot of the recovery centers since the fires. The commissioner, your guy is Gordon Ito. He's a really nice guy, does not have a super big staff. So I'm here to tell you, because it's our job to keep it real, that they're not going to give you a free lawyer. They're not going to give you a free adjuster, but they absolutely can help you get your policy. If you don't have it, they can help you if you are hitting a wall with an adjuster and you want to get a different adjuster assigned from the insurance company. They can help you if your insurance company is telling you something that just doesn't sound right to you or is at odds with something you've learned from our organization. And that's him. There's Commissioner Ito in the middle. But I just like people to be realistic about what they can expect, right? So there are laws, statutes that require your insurer to be prompt, to get back to you when you get in touch with them. And there's actual time deadlines. They're supposed to respond within 15 working days when you reach out to them. And of course, a lot of these timelines get extended for cause if there's a reason. But there are these rules, right? So they are, and these are going to be here for you to reference. They're all on our website. We have in addition to the library that we set up just for your fires, we also have a state of Hawaii help library, which has all your laws and regulations, right? A lot of this stuff is just really wonky lawyerese, but all of it means they have to be fair. They cannot string you along. They cannot try to lowball you. The bullet point there that says failing to not attempting in good faith to bring about a settlement where it's clear they owe you the money. That's a lawyer way of saying that they can't just sit around and or leave you with no choice but to file a lawsuit, right? That last one about trying to settle a claim for less than you would have thought you would get, that's lowballing. So we've got, I don't know, the queen of survivor to survivor with us. From the very early days of the Roadmap to Recovery program, we have been taking advantage of the hearts and minds of people who we have helped to help them, the next generation of people who go through a wildfire and need help. So we've tried lots of different formulas. We've had mentoring programs where you can have somebody's phone number, you can call them. Where we are now is we have something called the Survivor to Survivor set of resources. That includes printed tips written in the words and voices of people who been there, done that. And then we have our webinars. So Annie, if you want to just talk a little bit about the Survivor to Survivor webinars that we will be hosting. We've got one that will be coming up soon, but you're going to have to go on our website and register so that you know the date and you can register. So Annie.
Yeah, I invite you all to come and join us on our Survivor to Survivor. It's a safe place where only survivors exist. and we usually do an opening topic to get people talking. We share everything from, I'm struggling with this aspect, and we ask the other survivors to support that person and share how they navigated it. So best practices, triggers, emotions. We have a space for all of that, and you'd be welcome to come and join us.
Okay. And this is how you register. There's Annie right there on your amazing island, which I've had the great fortune to visit over the years. There's another one of our volunteers on the right, Lee Candelas, who some of you may have met. She lost her home, or her home was severely damaged in a wildfire in Colorado. There she is volunteering, and there's our little yellow book. And this is your library that we've created for you, and you can see on the right that there is the today's webinar, and then below it there's a place to sign up so that you will get notified when we have an event that would be useful to you. We have one open question, which I'm going to answer now live, because we're not too far over time here, just a little bit. For folks who did not lose their home to the fire, but are located in the middle of the burn zone and not been able to return due to air and water quality, are they generally able to use ALE for temporary housing until the water quality and air quality improves? And the answer is absolutely yes. You would consider that either a partial loss or an evacuation expense claim. But the bottom line is you should notify your insurer that you've lost the use of your home, particularly if there is a official government order that says that you can't return. That makes it a slam dunk that they owe you the money. If it is a situation where you could go, but that you don't feel safe, or experts have said it's not safe, it can be helpful to get some sort of documentation, either from a medical professional or the health department, or something that establishes for your insurer that that you're being reasonable in not wanting to move back into your home. So I think it should be fairly straightforward. The issues will be what we talked about earlier, where if you're staying with a relative and you're not actually paying rent to anybody right now, getting your insurer to compensate you will require making that argument for the fair rental value of your home, because you're not actually spending money on rent. And that's traditionally additional living expense coverage, ALE, loss of use, temporary living expense coverage, requires you to incur a cost and then get reimbursed for it. And if you're not actually incurring it, it can be a negotiation. That's something that the Department of Insurance could definitely help you with. So I want to say mahalo for your time, to my team, of whom I could not be more proud and grateful. Annie, I know in particular that so many people come to Maui for vacation and for pleasure, and those of you who live there, it's just how beautiful and special the place is, and we are just really very rooted in helping you navigate this without any strings attached, and with a genuine respect for your communities and your culture. And we're not here to tell you what to do or how to do it. We're here to tell you what has worked for other people, and what resources are available to you. We are really deeply rooting for your health and success. And one more question, if we get approved for the SBA loan, but don't want to use it until we rebuild, and if we can't start rebuilding for several years, how does that work? Val, are you able to answer that one?
Yeah, you're able to basically you'll have to contact them to do it, but you can basically put it on pause and just the big thing is you're communicating with them to let them know your status, where you are in the process. That's the big thing, is just letting them know. I don't know how long they will continue to basically let you renew it, but that communication is key to being able to extend it.
Thank you. And with that, this recording will be posted on our website. We encourage you to let your neighbors and friends and family, anyone who's been impacted, know about United Policyholders, uphelp.org, and to let them know that they can watch this orientation, and that this is the first in a series that we look forward to providing. We are in the process of seeking funding to be able to really stick around, but one way or the other, we're here for you, and rooting for you. May you be healthy, may you be safe, and may our information be helpful to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and take care, everybody.